You are sitting in the passenger seat of Valentina's Honda CR-V, the engine off, the key still dangling from the ignition, in a Walgreens parking lot on a Sunday afternoon in late October. The light through the windshield is pale amber, the specific gold of a sun that has already started its slow descent toward the roof of the CVS across the street. You've been staring through that windshield at absolutely nothing for 11 minutes. You know it's 11 minutes because you have checked your phone 11 times, the screen lighting up your face in brief, repeated flares, and exactly 1 minute has passed between each check. You've watched the numbers turn, 347 to 348 to 349, each shift a small accusation. Across the street there is a CVS and a Domino's and a guy walking a dog that looks like someone stapled a mop to a leash, the dog's fur hanging in long, unbothered ropes that swing as it trots. You've been watching these things with the focused, unnatural attention of a man who needs somewhere to put his eyes, who needs the world outside the car to remain legible and ordinary because the world inside the car is holding its breath. On the back seat, a half-eaten bag of tacos, fuego flavor, the red powder dusting the upholstery, sits open and forgotten. Valentina's phone is in the cup holder. The screen lights up twice, her cousin Marisol, then Marisol again, the name flashing insistently. You don't touch it. She told you to wait in the car. You said, okay. The alternative was standing under the fluorescent lights of a Walgreens at 3:47 p.m. while she bought a pregnancy test and the teenager at the register, a boy with acne along his jaw and the blank, unburdened expression of someone who has not yet lived through anything, scanned it without meeting either of your eyes. So you waited. You are very good at appearing calm. You have always been very good at appearing calm, which is a different skill entirely from being calm, and you have spent most of your adult life confusing the two, mistaking the performance for the condition. You are constructing an argument in your head. The argument goes like this: she has always had an irregular cycle. She told you this herself in October of last year, which means you've been together long enough to know her cycle, which means you are serious about each other, which means serious and careful people who know each other's bodies don't end up in Walgreens parking lots on Sundays holding white plastic bags in their laps like evidence. This argument has several structural problems that you are aware of and are choosing, with deliberate and willful effort, to set aside. You keep building it anyway because the alternative is sitting with what you actually think is true, and the argument is quieter. The passenger door opens. She gets in. The car shifts with her weight. She puts the white plastic bag on her lap and looks at the steering wheel, not at you, at the steering wheel, the worn leather at the 10 and 2 positions, like she is reading something written on it. Then she says, I got 2. Just to be sure. You feel your throat close and then open again, a small recalibration. You say, okay. She says, okay. Back, the same word, like she borrowed it, and is handing it to you carefully. She pulls out of the parking lot without turning on the radio, and you don't turn it on either, and the 2 miles to her apartment pass through 3 red lights and the specific silence of 2 people who have agreed, without speaking, to hold something very carefully until they are somewhere private enough to look at it. Her apartment complex is called Buena Vista Estates. There is no vista, and it is not especially buena. It is beige and maintained, with speed bumps every 40 feet that she navigates without slowing down because she knows exactly where they are, a small dip of the chassis, a slight bounce, then the next one. She parks. You both sit for 1 extra second, a held breath between the ignition shutting off and the doors opening, and then she gets out and you get out, and you go up the exterior stairs to her unit. She unlocks the door. Inside, it smells like her, the eucalyptus clip-on thing she put on the shower rod after a TikTok, her specific fabric softener, the last meal she made still faint in the air, something with onion and garlic that has settled into the curtains. She goes into the bathroom. The door is not fully closed, not fully open, a gap of maybe 4 inches, a stripe of yellow light falling across the hallway floor. You sit on the couch, which has a cactus print throw blanket and 2 pillows that say Casa and Dulce Casa, and on her coffee table there's a highlighter and a glass of water half finished and a supply chain logistics textbook open to a chapter she was highlighting before any of this started, Before this was a Sunday that would be different from other Sundays. She is finishing her business degree at night. You have known this and admired it, and right now this information sits in your chest like something you're only understanding for the first time. The scale of what she is already carrying, the weight she moves through every ordinary Tuesday. 3 minutes. You count them. The bathroom fan hums. A car passes in the parking lot below. She comes out holding the test, and she holds it toward you, not saying anything, and even though you knew in that parking lot, you knew 2 weeks ago, when she got quiet in a way that was different from her other kinds of quiet. The 2 pink lines are still a shock. They're not faint. They are not ambiguous. They are 2 full, unambiguous pink lines side by side, like a statement that has already been made and does not require your response. Your first thought is logistics. You are aware, even as it happens, that this is not a good first thought, but it is what your mind does. It goes to steps, to sequence, to the problem broken into its components. You have survived hard things this way, by making them into a series of manageable actions, and your mind does not know yet that this is not that kind of hard thing. She sits next to you on the couch. The test is on the coffee table next to the highlighter. The logistics textbook is open to a chapter you will never read. After a long time, she says, "Obi, I don't want to make a decision scared." You tell her that's smart. You mean it. Then you tell her you're not going anywhere, and you mean that too, and you sit together in the specific weight of a Sunday afternoon that has just become a different kind of afternoon. Around 9 p.m., she says she needs to call her mom. You start to stand, giving her space, and she grabs your wrist. Her fingers are cool and certain. She says, "Stay." It is not quite a request and not quite a command. It is something else, an enrollment. You sit back down. Her mom's contact name is Mama with a rose emoji. She answers on the second ring with, "Mija, ¿qué pasó?" So late, already knowing from the hour alone that something has shifted, because mothers answer late calls already knowing. Valentina talks. You watch her face change, going younger somehow, softer at the edges, the face of someone's daughter rather than someone's partner. The circle of people who know has just doubled. The story is no longer only yours. The week that follows has a specific texture that you will remember for a long time. 3 conversations with Valentina about options, none of them quite finished, each one ending when it gets too heavy and resuming the next day. 2 nights at your own apartment that feel thin-walled and provisional in a way they never did before. A confirmation appointment at a clinic called Sunrise Women's Health, a Wednesday at 10:40 a.m., where a technician named Brenda moves through her work with the practiced efficiency of someone who has explained these images 1,000 times. She points to something on the screen and says, 7 weeks, 2 days. And those words, 7 weeks, 2 days, convert the abstraction into a timeline and the timeline into a decision that has, somewhere in the previous week, already been made without anyone saying so. Brenda prints an information sheet. In the lower right corner there is a small black and white image, 2 inches square, low resolution, ambiguous to anyone who doesn't know what they're looking at. You fold the paper and put it in your jacket pocket without deciding to. You don't decide to keep it. You just don't take it out. You go back to work. You sit at your desk with your Bluetooth headset on. You're in logistics coordination for an HVAC distribution company, spreadsheets, routing systems, a shared calendar with color-coded delivery windows, and you wear the headset even when you're not on a call because it makes you feel like you're in forward motion. Your coworker Darnell asks if you're okay. You say you didn't sleep great. This is the most honest you are with anyone that entire week. At night you do math. You find a notepad and make columns, current rent versus a 2-bedroom. The difference is $7,920 annually. Diapers, $70 to $80 a month conservatively for the first year. Car seat. The 20% of prenatal costs that aren't covered. Your 401k has $11,400 in it, which felt serious when you started it, and now feels like something you'd feel embarrassed to describe. In the margin of the notepad, at some point, without planning to, you draw a small, rough rectangle. You look at it for a while. You don't know why you drew it. You close the notepad. You call your brother Marcus, who lives in Phoenix and has 2 kids, Imani, 4 years old, and Caleb, 18 months. And Marcus answers on the second ring and listens without interrupting and then laughs, not unkindly, the laugh of someone who recognizes the exact exercise you're doing because he did it. He says, "Bro, the notepad isn't the problem." You ask what the problem is. He says, "You think you can calculate your way through a feeling." You say you don't know what that means. He says you will. You lie awake for a while after you hang up, looking at a crack in the bedroom ceiling you've been meaning to report to the landlord for 3 months. Sunday comes around. You have had Sunday dinners at Valentina's parents' house before, many Sundays. You have watched football with Ernesto and accepted plates of food from Carmen with the specific generosity of people who do not give food casually, and need you to understand that. You thought you knew how to be in that house. You were wrong about this. But you don't know it yet when you pull up at 1:30 p.m. with a mixed bouquet from the Kroger on the way because you thought flowers were the right gesture. Ernesto opens the door. He looks at you, directly at you, 1 full second longer than he has ever looked at you before. It is not hostile. It is the look of a man taking a measurement. Then he steps aside. In that 1 second, your entire relationship with him is quietly renegotiated. Carmen takes the flowers and says, "Ay, que bonitas," with a warmth that is genuine and also carries something else, something you will spend the drive home trying to name, a mild, loving awareness that you have brought a boyfriend gesture into a situation that no longer has a category for boyfriend. The house smells like residue negro and rendered lard, the warm damp of a kitchen that started at 9 in the morning. On the counter a pot of black beans, a stack of handmade tortillas under a dish towel, a half-drunk Jarritos tamarindo on the table, a plastic floral tablecloth, a lazy Susan carrying 7 condiments, chairs for 6. You look at the refrigerator. You do this without intending to, your eyes just go there. Because the refrigerator in Carmen's kitchen is a document, layers of school photos and prayer cards and a magnet from Cancun and a shopping list in 2 different handwritings. And there, held by a Virgin de Guadalupe magnet directly at eye level, is the ultrasound image. Not the full information sheet from Sunrise Women's Health, just the image, cut out, trimmed neatly. Carmen put it there. It is in a place of deliberate prominence, between a saint's card and the most recent school photo of a niece you haven't met, and you understand in the space of 1 breath that this image, which you put in your jacket pocket, which has been moving with you in that pocket, no longer belongs to the jacket pocket. It belongs to this refrigerator. It belongs to this family. It was always going to end up here. Dinner is warm and heavy, and the conversation moves in layers, Spanish and English and alternating currents, stories about cousins you haven't met, a dispute about whether the beans need more episode that everyone has a strong opinion on. You eat and listen and pass things when asked, and you are present in the way you are always present, competent and attentive, and slightly behind the conversation's actual frequency. You have always been slightly behind in this house. Not because they are unwelcoming, but because the house operates at a speed and in a register that you are still, after a year and a half, learning to read. After dinner Ernesto tells you to come outside. He has 2 Modelos and he hands you one, cold, already open. He leans against the back fence where a passion fruit vine is flowering, something he has been training for 4 years, directing it with wire and small clips he checks every week. He does not start with the pregnancy. He starts with your job. How long you've been there. Whether it's salaried. Your benefits package. He asks these questions with the focus of someone assessing load-bearing capacity, deciding whether a structure can hold more weight than it currently carries. Then he goes quiet. He looks at the passion fruit vine. The evening is maybe 62 degrees, and someone 2 houses down is burning something in a fire pit, and the smoke comes over the fence intermittently, sweet and thin. He says, without turning to look at you, "Valentina is not alone in anything. You understand this?" You say yes. You mean it. But something in your chest shifts when you say it, a physical thing, a rearrangement of weight. Because you understand, standing there with a Modelo in the yard in November, that yes is no longer a sentiment. It is a contract. And you are not the sole party to it. The other party is this man, this yard, this family, the passion fruit vine that has been here for 4 years and will be here after tonight, and will be here when the child is old enough to wonder what it is called. You have just entered a structure that was built before you arrived. You are not founding something new. You are being added to something old. You have spent your whole life founding things, choosing them, building them, managing them from the outside. And this is not that. This is different in a way that lives in your feet, in the ground under them. You follow Ernesto's glance toward the upstairs window. The kitchen light is on. Through the glass, in the lit frame of it, you can see Carmen and Valentina talking, 2 women standing close, and Valentina has her hand on her stomach. Low, unconscious, a gesture she doesn't know she's making. She's not performing anything. Her hand just went there. You look at that for a moment. Then you look away. The weeks that follow move slowly. This is the part that no one tells you about, not the dramatic conversations, not the confrontations, but the slow accumulation of being incorporated. Your life acquires new geography. Sunday dinners become structurally different events, not social occasions but something more like governance. Carmen begins planning the baby shower at the kitchen table with the organized seriousness of someone who has been waiting for a project of this scale. There will be 43 guests. She knows this number the way you know your own address. The venue is the church hall on Rosecrans. Father Mendez has already been consulted. The color will be gold yellow, the yellow of marigolds, a color Carmen decided before anyone was consulted and which no one will argue with because the argument would miss the point. The yellow is not a preference. It is a declaration. You are present at the planning meeting. You are offered coffee and a piece of pan dulce and a specific role in the proceedings that consists mostly of nodding and occasionally being asked to confirm logistical details about your schedule. At one point Carmen takes a 4x6 photograph out of a small envelope printed at a Walgreens photo counter, framed already, in a thin silver frame she had in a drawer, and sets it on the kitchen windowsill. It is the ultrasound image again. Sharper now, at this size, more legible. She places it between a small potted succulent and a bottle of dish soap and then steps back and looks at it the way you look at something you've been waiting to put somewhere. You watch her look at it. You think about that jacket pocket. You think about Brenda and the 10:40 a.m. appointment and the information sheet you folded without deciding to. The image on that windowsill started as a printout in a medical office and is now a framed photograph in someone's kitchen. And the distance between those two things is the distance you have traveled in 12 weeks. And you haven't moved from this chair. Valentina catches you looking. She doesn't say anything. She just reaches over and touches your hand once, quickly, and takes it away. Marisol texts the baby shower invitation at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Gold and white, a small illustrated cactus and flower, Baby Marisol, in hand-lettered script at the top. This is the name. You agreed on it the week before, sitting at Valentina's kitchen table with a list of names that got shorter each time one of you made a face. Valentina just liked the sound of it, Marisol, nothing more complicated than that. When the invitation comes through on your phone, you sit with it for a moment. 43 guests are going to know your name now. 43 people's relationship to you will begin with this. Your own parents know by this point. You told them on a Saturday, sitting in their living room while your father turned off the television, not paused, turned off entirely, the screen going dark, which told you he already knew something was coming before you arrived, the way fathers sometimes know. Your mother figured it out before you finished the sentence. She said, "Oh, baby." Not as a judgment, not as a consolation, but as the arrival of a very large love moving very fast. And it was the most destabilizing thing anyone said to you in this entire experience because it carried no conditions. Your father asked about Valentina's family. You described Ernesto. Your father nodded. He said, "A man who means what he says, those are the ones you can work with." Your mother made tea without asking if you wanted tea, set it in front of you, and sat across from you with the particular attention of someone who has been waiting their whole parenting life for the specific conversation they are now having. Before you left, she found a photo, your newborn photo, you in the hospital wrapped in a striped blanket, A face that has not yet decided what it wants to express. She didn't say anything when she handed it to you. You took it. You looked at it for a moment, and you looked away. The pregnancy moves through its months with its own logic. The nausea lifts around week 12. Valentina finishes her semester. You move into the two-bedroom at the Marquee in February, $16.40 a month, washer-dryer in the hallway closet, a parking spot that requires a permit you keep forgetting to put in your window. The apartment is clean and new-smelling, the way of a place that has not yet been lived in, and you and Valentina spend the first weekend building furniture from flat boxes and disagreeing about where the couch should go, and ordering Thai food and eating it on the floor because the table is not assembled yet. It is, in its way, an ordinary weekend, ordinary in the way that the best parts of a life often are. The baby shower is enormous and warm and louder than anything you have attended since a cousin's quinceañera in 2018. The church hall on Rosecrans fills up with people who know Valentina's whole history, women who knew her as a child, cousins who drove 3 hours, neighbors from the old neighborhood, friends from every phase of her life in one room. The gold-yellow Carmen chose is everywhere, tablecloths, balloons, a banner, the tissue paper and the gift bags. It looks like someone set a marigold field on fire in a very controlled way. You stand at the edge of things for the first 2 hours, and then Carmen physically moves you to the center of things, places you next to Valentina at the table, and you understand that this is not negotiable. You are not a guest here. You are part of what is being celebrated. Ernesto finds you near the drink table. He hands you a glass of agua de Jamaica and says nothing for a moment. Then he says, "You ready?" You say yes. He nods once. He moves away. That's the whole conversation. She goes into labor at 2:17 a.m. on a Thursday. You've been half asleep for weeks, the kind of sleep where you're always partly listening, one ear toward the door, your body already on alert before your mind knows why. When she wakes you up, you are awake before she finishes the sentence. You help her to the car. You drive to St. Francis Medical Center doing the speed limit except for one stretch on the freeway where you go 8 miles over and then correct yourself, which strikes you later as a very specific kind of composure. For 40 minutes before her parents arrive, it is just the two of you. The room is white and blue and cool, kept at 70 degrees, which feels cold, and the sheets are that particular hospital sheet texture, thin and starched and faintly chemical. There is a monitor tracking Valentina's contractions with a sound like steady rainfall, a fast metronomic sound that will become, over the next 14 hours, the background rhythm of everything. You hold her hand. And she grips yours with a tightening that arrives in intervals and communicates precisely how much pain she is in without her having to describe it. Carmen and Ernesto arrive at 3 a.m. Carmen goes directly to Valentina's side, to the left of the bed, and you stay on the right. Ernesto remains in the waiting room. Through the door's glass panel, you can see him sitting with his hands folded, motionless, in a chair that faces the room's direction. He will sit there for 14 hours. He will not ask to come in until he is invited. Dr. Okafor administers the epidural at 4:15 a.m., for minutes flat, practiced and exact. Valentina's grip on your hand changes. The intervals stay, but the tightening eases, and she looks at you after and exhales and says, "Okay," in the specific way she said it in the parking lot in October, testing the word and finding that it holds. At some point in the gray-blue hours before dawn, Valentina asks you to take a photo of the contraction monitor. Not of her, of the monitor. A readout of the baby's heartbeat, a series of peaks and valleys she wants recorded. You pick up your phone and frame the shot, and in the dark of the screen, above the monitor's image, you see your own face reflected. Unfamiliar in this light, in this room, doing this specific thing. A face that does not look like the face of a man managing something. A face that looks like a man who is inside something. You take the photo. You set the phone down. At 5:09 p.m., after 14 hours and 3 pushes that Carmen counts through in Spanish, her voice steady and rhythmic as a metronome, Marisol arrives. She is 7 pounds 4 ounces. She is 20 inches long. She makes a sound that is not quite a cry. It is smaller than that, more exploratory, an open-mouth exhale, like she is testing the air to see what it is made of. Valentina says, "Mia," before the nurses say anything. Carmen makes a sound that is not a word. The nurse holds the baby for exactly 45 seconds, and then Valentina says, "Give her to him." And the nurse moves toward you, and you take her. You were not ready for the weight of her, not the number. 7 pounds 4 ounces is an abstraction until it is in your hands, until it is a specific and entirely real gravitational fact, a person weight. The weight of a person who has been theoretical for 9 months and is now indisputably actual in a way that makes theoretical feel like a word from a different language. You hold her against your chest. She stops making the exploratory sound. Her eyes are open. She is looking at the light. You think about the notepad with its columns. You think about the parking lot in October, the guy with the mop dog, the 11 minutes, the tachus. You think about Ernesto and the passion fruit vine and the way Valentina's hand went to her stomach without her knowing it, visible through the kitchen window. You think about Marcus saying the notepad is not the problem. You think about your mother's face before you finished your sentence. You think about the framed photo on Carmen's windowsill and how it started as a printout in your jacket pocket and how the jacket is in a closet at the Marquee now, and the image is on the windowsill, and both of those facts are true, and neither of them is in conflict. The thing you have been trying to calculate your way toward was never a destination you could calculate toward. You knew this since Marcus told you. And you kept calculating anyway because knowing something is not the same as feeling it in your hands at 5:09 p.m. in a room that smells like antiseptic and the specific biological newness of a person who has just arrived. The calculation was never the point. The calculation was just what you did with your hands while you were waiting to be changed. Ernesto comes in from the waiting room when Carmen opens the door. He stands in the doorway for a long moment, not hesitating, just looking. The way you look at something you want to fully take in before you move toward it. He walks to where you are standing. He looks at Marisol against your chest. Then he puts one hand on your shoulder, not a grip, a placement, brief and certain, there and then not there, a fact stated and completed. He looks at his granddaughter for another moment, then he looks at you. He nods once. That is the whole thing. That is the entire contents of the moment, and it is enough. 3 weeks later, you are in the kitchen of the Marquee at 3 a.m., walking in a loop between the counter and the living room window because Marisol is awake, and when Marisol is awake, you are awake. This is a new condition of your life, like weather, not a complaint, just a fact, a standing meteorological reality that is apparently going to last for some months, and that you are learning to move through. Valentina is asleep. She asked you to take this shift? You said yes. The apartment smells like her now, that warm bread and powder smell that you cannot quite name but will always recognize. The washer-dryer in the hallway closet is running through its last cycle from yesterday, a low mechanical hum. Through the window, the street light on the corner does its occasional flicker, orange-white, casting the living room in a light that moves and stills and moves. You are walking, and Marisol is against your chest, her head at your collarbone, and her eyes are open and tracking things. The flickering light, the shadows it makes, with a focused seriousness that makes you wonder what she is already building in there, what the world looks like from the first 3 weeks of knowing it. She opens her fist and finds your index finger, and closes around it. The grip is stronger than you expected. This always surprises new fathers. Marcus told you. The grip. It is a reflex, technically, a neurological response with a name you have already forgotten. But it doesn't feel like a reflex. It feels like a statement. It feels like something that has always been trying to happen finally happening. Your wallet is on the counter behind you. Inside it, folded small, is the information sheet from Sunrise Women's Health, the one with the 2-inch black and white image in the lower right corner, the one Brenda printed on a Wednesday morning in October at 10:40 a.m. when the measurement was 7 weeks and 2 days and the image was ambiguous to anyone who didn't know what they were looking at. You have had it for 7 months. You have taken it out 4 times, once in the Walgreens parking lot of your building late at night, not knowing why, once at the kitchen table in October, alone, once the night before the shower, and once tonight, before Marisol woke up, standing at the counter, Looking at it the way you look at something you want to make sure is still there. It is still there. Everything that was abstract is now the grip on your finger. Everything that was a calculation is now this kitchen, this loop, this specific 3 a.m. with its washer hum and its flickering street light, and the weight of a person against your chest who arrived 9 months after a parking lot on a Sunday. You didn't plan any of this. You planned none of the specific shapes of it, not this kitchen, not this loop, not this finger, not the fist that found it. What you planned was to handle things well. What happened instead is this: you were handled by things. You were assessed and claimed and incorporated and loved into a shape you didn't choose, by people who were going to love you that way whether you were ready or not. Because that is what that love does. It does not ask if you are ready. It asks if you will stay. You stayed. Marisol's fist tightens on your finger once and releases and tightens again. The streetlight steadies. Some men stand in a parking lot one October Sunday doing arithmetic on something that was never going to be arithmetic. The ones who make it through aren't the ones who solved it. They're the ones who stopped trying to. If you want to see more, click the video on screen now.